Since 2017, the Chinese government has been accused of detaining around 1 million Uyghur Muslims in camps across Xinjiang. There are reports that these individuals have been forced to learn Chinese, indoctrinated with communist ideology, and even subjected to physical torture. China has, however, consistently denied these allegations, asserting that the camps are solely for, quote, re-education. Direct evidence of what happens inside the camps is scarce, with only satellite images and external speculation offering to shed light on the situation. While Xinjiang remains largely inaccessible to media, neighbouring Kazakhstan, home to many former detainees, provides a glimpse into what may be happening inside the camps. Kazakhstan shares a border with China's Xinjiang region, which is home to a significant ethnic and religious minority, starkly different from the Han Chinese majority. China's policies of suppressing and destroying the traditional way of life have driven many Muslims to flee to Kazakhstan, where they find shared ethnicity and religious beliefs. Since gaining independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, Kazakhstan has welcomed many ethnic Kazakh Muslims from Xinjiang. Many of these Kazakhs have abandoned their Chinese citizenship to seek a better life in Kazakhstan, where they hope to live freely as Muslims. Issues began to arise, however, when China started detaining around 1 million Uyghur Muslims, including ethnic Kazakhs, who had renounced their Chinese citizenship and moved to Kazakhstan. These individuals have reportedly been sent to detention camps, where stories of torture have begun to surface. China continues to deny these allegations, insisting that the camps are merely educational facilities aimed at combating extremist ideologies. China's strict control over information has, though, left the true nature of these camps largely unknown to the outside world. To understand what happens inside these detention centers, we visit Almaty, the former capital of Kazakhstan, located just 400 kilometers from Xinjiang. Here, many former detainees have taken refuge, including Khairat Samarkand, a Kazakh Muslim who was detained for over 10 months before his release in 2018. Khairat, an ethnic Kazakh Muslim born and raised in China, faced discrimination and the threats to the well-being and beliefs of Muslims in Xinjiang. As a result, he renounced his Chinese citizenship and moved to Kazakhstan, where he applied for citizenship several years ago. He describes how his community once lived peacefully before the arrival of Xi Jinping, China's new president. Khairat says everything changed. Xi altered laws and imposed new regulations, bringing police in to monitor and control Muslims, making them feel like outsiders in their own country. Even in Kazakhstan, ethnic Kazakhs from China remain under scrutiny. Khairat was even arrested when he returned to China for his brother's wedding. He recounts how he was interrogated for hours, shackled to a metal chair with his arms and legs restrained. To protect himself, he lied, saying he didn't pray regularly. Even his lies didn't spare him from being sent to a detention camp, though. Using Google Earth, Khairat pointed out one of the many camps in Xinjiang where he had been held, a camp in the desert, located about 600 kilometers north of Urumqi, Xinjiang's capital.
And this is the camp you were?
Khairat tells us that the camp has 3 buildings, one for Muslims caught praying or reading the Quran, another for those who had traveled to Arab countries, and a third for those who opposed the Chinese government. People in the camp are required to learn Chinese, pledge loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party, and do things that go against Muslim beliefs. Detainees are treated differently depending on the camp. Where he was held, he was forbidden to pray, forced to eat pork, and subjected to other forms of cultural humiliation. While he wasn't physically beaten, he describes the psychological and emotional torture as relentless. He also recounts being forced to wear a cold metal suit that kept him standing rigid, arms outstretched, and unable to move. At one point, the suffering became so unbearable that he attempted to end his life by banging his head against the wall. This act of desperation eventually led to his release. Kairat has been back in Kazakhstan for about a year, gradually recovering physically. But the psychological trauma of his experiences in the camp will haunt him for the rest of his life. Because of this, he has no intention of ever returning to China, the country of his birth. Almaty, the former capital of Kazakhstan, offers a unique blend of Asian and European influences. Despite Kazakhstan being a Muslim-majority country in Central Asia, the city exudes a distinctly Western atmosphere, with its fashion and lifestyle setting it apart from other Muslim-majority regions. Almaty has long been a destination for Muslim migrants from China. The Chinese government's targeting of Muslims has extended beyond its borders, with those living in Kazakhstan facing constant scrutiny. China fears that the growing number of Muslim refugees from Xinjiang may further complicate its efforts to maintain control over the region. Although Xinjiang is a remote and impoverished region, it accounts for 1/6 of China's total land area. More importantly, Xinjiang is rich in natural resources, such as oil and gas. Its strategic location along the ancient Silk Road also makes it China's gateway to Russia and South Asia. For these reasons, China is unwilling to let Xinjiang gain any semblance of independence. Instead, they seek to assimilate the Muslim population into the Han Chinese majority as much as possible. Those who have migrated to Kazakhstan have found themselves within China's reach, with many forcibly returned to China and sent to detention camps. Kadir Ali, a Kazakh activist for Muslim rights in Xinjiang, says that China fears a war could lead ethnic majorities to seek independence, which might prompt the Muslim Kazakhs in Xinjiang to want to join Kazakhstan.
If you want to see more great content from all over the world, please like the video, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you.
Armanjan Saikuli, another Kazakh Muslim, was arrested by Chinese authorities, despite having lived in Kazakhstan since 2002, marrying a local and obtaining Kazakh citizenship legally. He was detained while on a business trip to China, accused of still being a Chinese citizen and living abroad illegally.
I don't know, they decided to send me to the concentration camp, re-education camp, because the reason they told me that I have 2 citizenship. Very ridiculous answer. Amanjan Seyitulu refused the citizenship of China and already obtained the Kazakhstan citizenship.
Armanjan was interrogated about his Islamic faith and then sent to a detention camp where he was forced to study Communist Party ideology.
All about the communism, the capitalism is bad, like the meaning, and more than 226 sentences that against the religion. Like I already almost, I don't want to remember, you see. And like at 6 o'clock, we woke up by the shouting song, red song, communist song.
News and reports about the existence of detention camps are gaining more visibility in international media. Meanwhile, China claims these are not detention camps, but facilities for the re-education of and skills training for Muslims. The accounts of those who have been inside tell a very different story.
And also new detainer come outside. I think there are more than 500 or 300 people already line by line, and lots of policemen with a gun looking around you. When we took off the veil, we saw we were standing in the middle of the high wall. At the wall have the cable, electric cable, and the room, big prison room.
The period that Armanjan describes as a time of suffering lasted 2 months. It was his wife who fought tirelessly with the Kazakh government and human rights organizations, providing evidence that her husband is a legal Kazakh citizen. After 2 months of detention, Armanjan was finally released. Ergeshbayeva Gulmira, the wife of the former detainee, tells us how she gathered every piece of evidence to prove that her husband holds Kazakh citizenship. Armanjan has now returned to the embrace of his family, and their suffering and waiting have come to an end. For some families, though, this reunion is still just a dream. This small family from Xinjiang has lived in Almaty for nearly 10 years. Their husband and father is, however, absent. In 2017, the head of the family was summoned back to China by the authorities. They claimed he needed to sign documents related to his past salary as a government teacher. No one could have imagined that he would never return.
Kazakhstan'da turdu, bizde alıp geldi. Bizde alıp geldi.
Rahim Gulbani, the detainee's wife, explains that when her husband had to return to China to deal with some financial documents, he was arrested for relocating his family to Kazakhstan. With sorrow in her eyes, Rahim reveals that she's not slept soundly for a single night since. The tall man in the photograph is her beloved husband, who she hasn't been able to contact in the 2 years since his arrest. After exhausting all avenues of inquiry, earlier this year, news of his release reached her, prompting her to rush to China. Although they were able to meet, it was only a brief encounter, because the Chinese government forbade her husband from leaving the country. After 2 years of anxious waiting, Rahim only had the opportunity to speak with him briefly and without any privacy whatsoever. The call was monitored by Chinese officials, with authorities standing guard nearby. Rahim tells us that she believes the police forced her husband to lie. He told her that everything was fine, that he was working on something, and that she should quickly return to Kazakhstan and not travel to China again. She had to return to Kazakhstan alone to continue her long vigil. To this day, Rahim still doesn't understand why the Chinese government continues to detain her husband.
Күні бүгінге шек біз сағына.
She mentions that her husband always informed the family of his whereabouts. Now, Rahim is confused because he says nothing. She doesn't consider herself politically important. She's just a housewife who wants her husband back. All she and her son can do from Kazakhstan is gather documents proving her husband's legal residence to present to human rights organizations. They both obtained Kazakh citizenship and passports in 2012, but her husband remained in Kazakhstan on a visa as a family member. Today, she and her son are carrying travel documents as they visit a human rights organization. At Atajet, the organization that handles complaints from relatives of detainees, they collect evidence and submit it to the Kazakh government and the United Nations, pressuring the Chinese authorities to release these people as quickly as possible. So far, they have helped to return over 100 detainees to Kazakhstan. An official from the organization explains that most of the people who seek their help are the wives of husbands who've been arrested. They're currently assisting over 100 individuals, providing not only support with evidence and petitions, but also financial aid and other essential items. Aside from Rahim, there are many other families whose relatives remain missing and out of contact. The Chinese government has consistently denied accusations regarding the conditions in these camps, and in some cases has attempted to force detainees and their relatives to sign documents pledging not to speak about their experiences. Many fear that speaking out could lead to harm to themselves or their families. For some, however, there is a strong sense of obligation to share their stories. For those still waiting, there is hope that their voices will eventually bring their loved ones home. Those who have regained their freedom speak out to help others from their ethnic group who remain unjustly imprisoned. Even though it may risk their lives, they believe that if they don't speak up, no one will. Rahim expresses her hope that the Chinese government will hear her plea and that the Kazakh government will assist her. She wishes for China to return her husband's passport and allow him to cross the border so they may be reunited.
We are afraid, but I have to tell the truth. I just telling the truth to all the media, to all the country who like the justice, to all the people.
Over 4,000 kilometers away from the center of power in Beijing, life for Muslims in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region remains far from normal. The camps remain a dark secret to the outside world. Hundreds of kilometers away from Xinjiang, even Muslims who have fled to Kazakhstan aren't completely free. No matter where they are, under the guise of stability and security, the dragon's claws stretch far and wide, reshaping individuals into a single uniform identity, much like the dragon itself.